good evening and welcome to UK Crime Book Club. And this, I can't get my words out. Tonight, I'm delighted to be joined by Callie Taylor, known on her books as C.L. Taylor, which I've got this one here, which is a proof, so I can't show you. I'll show you that way. That's upside down, isn't it? There we go. Hi, Callie. Thank you for joining us this evening. And your book, Every Move You Make, was out in the last couple of weeks. And it's a personal book for you, isn't it? It's about stalking, and I wanted to sort of say thank you for coming on and talking about your experiences, because in the author's notes it's actually really sort of emotional to read it, and it must have been a really horrible experience for you. So thank you for sharing it with us this evening. And sort of how did that, would you like to tell us about the book and also sort of how it sort of shaped you writing the book?
Yeah, sure. So I'll give you a little bit of a brief background to the stalking first, so you get an idea how long ago it was. It was actually 16 years ago. And although I've touched on stalking in a few of my books as a minor storyline, I've never written a book solely about stalking. And I've never put it into the public domain before that I was stalked. But with this book, I thought it was important to share my story, partly so the book reads as more real because it comes from a personal place, but also because, you know, there's a message that I want to get out there. You know, there's a certain amount of shame involved in being stalked. Any kind of crime, you feel like a victim, and you feel a kind of amount of shame of saying, yes, I was a victim. I hate the word victim. But with this book, it was important to me. So the background is that when I was stalked by an ex-partner. We'd been together for 4 years off and on. It started really magically. I mean, looking back now, I realize I was love bombed. He seemed to have everything in common with me. He was so complimentary. He was charming. I felt like I was in a Hollywood film. It was like that kind of romance and love that you feel in a Hollywood film. And like nothing I've ever experienced before. And then gradually the questions came, questions about my past and my ex-boyfriends, and, you know, criticism of my friends, and questions about previous partners, numbers, you know, this sort of thing. And I started to feel really judged. And so I would start to kind of temper my answers, because I knew if I told him the truth, I'd get judged. So I'd start to lie and, claim I wasn't in touch with ex-boyfriends, or, you know, I'd had fewer partners than I'd actually had. And I kept waiting for it to go back to normal. I kept, you know, when are these questions over and done with, and we can go back to that lovely beginning. And we would temporarily. But it became a pattern. And every time I started to feel a little bit happy or a little bit settled, there'd be something else and something else. And it started to become, you know, the phrase is so overused now that it's become a cliche, but they're walking on eggshells. You know, if you have dinner with friends, on the rare occasion he would meet my friends, I would be tense the whole meal, because what are they going to say? Now, there was one occasion when we went to a friend's house for dinner, and, you know, I was like a casual smoker, but he didn't like me smoking. So I told him I'd given up. But when I saw my friend on the side, I would smoke. And after the meal, she said to me, "Oh, Callie, do you want a cigarette?" And I was like, no, you know, I've given up. And then on the tube back to his house, he started screaming at me, calling me a liar if I'd lied about smoking. What else had I lied about? And got out of the tube. He followed me. He sort of shoved me up against a wall and said, "It's only because I love you." And, you know, I knew all of this was wrong, you know, and I had enough friends telling me to get out. And I did try and get out multiple times. I left him multiple times. But he was so good at knowing where my soft spots were. And he was so good at talking. and he would manage to talk me into giving him another chance. You know, there'd always be an excuse. He was suffering from depression, or his ex-girlfriend had made him lose trust in women, or something awful had happened in his childhood, or there was always an excuse and always promises that things would be different. We'd go back to how we were, and if we just changed this, we could sort it out. And he'd always talk me back. And then it got to 4 years into the relationship, and I kind of convinced myself that if we moved in together, because I was in Brighton and he was in London, that things might be easier. Well, he wouldn't be able to question where I was, for a start.
Yeah.
But on the day I was due to hand over the keys to my flat, because I owned my own flat, the day I was due to hand it over to a letting agent, he sent me a text and basically an abusive text saying, "Why didn't you kiss me goodbye this morning?" And I just thought, oh my God, no, this is it. This is going to be the rest of my life, and I'm going to be stuck in a 1-bedroom flat or a studio flat in London with him, and I won't be able to escape like I have been able to. And so I rang him up and I said, yeah, this isn't working, it's over. And I decided, right, this time I'm not going to reply. If he texts, if he calls, I'm not going to reply. And for the control freak that he was, that just drove him insane. And that's when he started stalking me. And he would physically stalk me. He'd turn up, he'd ring the doorbell, he'd stand outside in the rain while I'd be sitting in my flat. He'd send me messages saying, "I know you're in there, I can hear you moving around." He'd bombard my landline, my mobile, the contact form on my website. He'd create new emails when I blocked one. You know, he found a sort of hidden Twitter account that I had, found out when I was going to a gig, turned up. It was just continuous. He was finding blog posts that I'd commented on of, you know, other writers and aspiring. He was looking for anything. He tried to hack my Facebook. He tried to hack my email accounts. And the only little bit of control that I had was that on my website, I had this hidden web counter. And back then, it would, I mean, the Google laws have changed since then, but then it would show me what everybody had searched for to come to my website, what their IP address was, where they were from, roughly in location, what pages they'd visited, that sort of thing. And because I had accessed my own website from his house, I knew his IP address. And so I tagged it in my stats with his name and house. And I also knew where he worked. So when he would look at my website from work, the name of his company showed up. So that way, I was able to know if he was looking at my website from home or work in London while I was in Brighton, and I would know that it'd be safe to leave the house because he wasn't waiting nearby.
It's really scary.
Yeah, it's full on. And it was horrible. But I never reported it to the police because he never threatened to harm or kill me.
No.
And back then, the stalking laws were really different. They've changed now. You can get done for cyber stalking somebody or harassing somebody.
Yeah.
You don't have to threaten to hurt you. But it was that thing, that little bit of control, that code on my website that gave me the idea for this book. Because I'd been reading an article in the New York Times about Apple trackers and how various celebrities were getting an alert on their iPhone saying there is a tracker on you or something like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I just thought, well, that's a bit of a flaw in a tracker, that it actually alerts people that it's on them. So I thought there must be other trackers. So I did some research.
Yeah.
And I found out that there's a whole world of surveillance. And I found these trackers that are magnetic, so you can attach them under a car. And a lot of people actually use them for stalking. So they might put it on a partner to find out where they're going. Put it on
so the other way around. Yeah.
The other way around. And I thought it would be interesting to twist that narrative. Yeah. So it's not the stalkers using their technology, it's the stalking victims doing it. And so in every move you make, I've got 5 victims of stalking, and not too much of a spoiler, but one of them dies in the first chapter when their stalker gets out of prison. And the others go to her funeral, receive a wreath basically saying one of you will die in 10 days' time. And because they know that the police and the courts can't save them, they take matters into their own hands. And they decide to place trackers on each other's stalkers, because obviously they're not known to each other's stalkers. No. But it doesn't exactly go to plan.
No, no, it doesn't. Because I mean, the opening chapters, or the opening chapter is fairly shocking, you know. So Natalie is, you know, well, basically murdered in the first, you know, it's not a spoiler because it basically says on the blurb. So
yes, exactly.
It's not a massive spoiler. But actually then you get to know Alexandra, Bridget, River and Lucy, who are her friends. But they're not conventional friends, are they, in the sense of the word? They've been brought together by their experiences. And so did you, when you sort of started out to write the process, did you always know that there was going to be one victim who died and then the others, or how did it sort of come about?
No, I didn't know from the beginning that one was going to die. Actually, I started writing that first chapter wanting to show the experience of being stalked. I thought that was quite important to do that right from the beginning, to show the fear. And then I thought to myself, because I knew that they were going to place the trackers, I knew that from the beginning, but I thought there needs to be some kind of inciting incident, something that changes the way that they're doing things. Because as you said, they don't know each other. They met on a stalking support group online, realized that this small group of this whole community was from London and formed their own little community, and then a WhatsApp group. So I thought, what would prompt a bunch of victims to do something so potentially dangerous? And I just thought, right, something really needs to happen that shocks them into doing it. So I decided, okay, I'm really sorry, Natalie.
Sorry, Natalie.
But you're going to die in the first chapter. But then I thought, I need a ticking clock as well. I need something that really puts the pressure on. So then I thought, okay, they all meet at Natalie's funeral for the first time, and a wreath gets delivered with a date on it for 10 days' time. And I thought, okay, that's it. That's the basics of my story set. Now I've got a ticking clock. I've got an inciting incident. Now all I need to do is just throw loads of obstacles at my characters to make it really, really hard for them.
I hadn't really thought about that, actually, about that she's sort of the catalyst for them to do stuff, because they do really do some things that are extreme. But then when you read the book, you realize that they have been put in extreme situations by their own stalkers. And because I don't think you could imagine it unless you've been through something like that. You can't imagine what you would do or what you've been driven to, because it just must be, horrendous, that relentless, thinking about Alex and how, she relentlessly gets trolled online about everything. She's an actress, isn't she? So she gets trolled every day, and it almost becomes normal for her in the book, isn't it? That she almost expects, she knows that it's going to happen. So she just becomes not hardened to it, because it does affect her, but it's just awful.
Because the thing about Alex is she's the one character in the book who doesn't know who her stalker is.
No.
And to me, that thought is particularly terrifying, because if you do have a stalker, you're looking for their size, their shape, their hair color, and all of that sort of thing. But so Alex is an actress who used to be in a well-known soap, and now she's trying to make her debut on the West End in Hedda Gabler, to become a more well-respected actress. So the last thing she wants to do is pull out of this play, because this is her big chance to make it. But there's this unknown stalker who's taking photos of her when she's out and about. They know where she lives. They stand outside the house. They put gifts on the doorstep or notes through the door. They even know where she works at the theatre. And I just thought to myself, that's about as terrifying as it can get, I think, where you can be in a restaurant or on a tube or walking down the street and thinking any one of these people could be my stalker. That to me, that's terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? Is that, like the other victims, they know who they have a name, they have a presence. They, some have had relationships, some have sort of intimate relationships, some have had relationships, but yeah, she knows nothing, does she? It's like she knows nothing about her stalker. She doesn't know why they're stalking her, apart from the fact she's famous, possibly, but she doesn't exactly know that because she's in the public eye, you know. And I imagine, you know, with your research, did you sort of look at, because there are, you know, really high profile or you know, people who are in the public eye that get stalked. Was that something that you sort of researched?
Yeah, I did. And there are absolutely tons of them. You know, you just have to put into Google famous person or celebrity stalker, and there's loads. I mean, and you know, some of them are really, really terrifying. You know, the stalkers break into their houses.
Yeah,
I mean, can you imagine just waking up in the middle of the night and there's a stranger standing in your bedroom or whatever it is, or turning up at your daughter's school, or I did not have to look very far to find someone to kind of base Alexandra's story around. And I also did a lot of research into the more, you know, the non-celebrity kind of stalker. I watched an absolute ton of documentaries, and anyone that thinks that what happens in this book might be a little bit over the top, it's nowhere near the kind of things that I researched. I mean,
really,
a lot of the documentaries that I watched, I just thought people would not believe this if I put it into a book. The kind of sustained attacks that some stalkers do, not just on, you know, by following the person or sending things, but like destroying property, slashing car tires, going after relatives, sending relatives messages. There was one poor woman who someone was, I think it was an ex-boyfriend, and they had naked photos of her. So they were sending them to her father's friends because they tracked all of these people down and trying to intimate that she wanted to start a sexual relationship. And then the father's friend might send a photo back, or this person was just trying to absolutely destroy this woman's reputation, workmates. I mean, you know, honestly, there's some really shocking stories out there, you know, in the real world.
Yeah, I mean, and I think sometimes that the victim can, like you said, blame themselves and think that it's something that they've done. I mean, I guess that's more if you've been in a relationship with someone and, you know, you sort of, I'm thinking about Lucy and her story with Marcus. He's a piece of work.
Yeah.
He was just like, he really evoked strong feelings in me. He was just awful. He just, and she's a, you know, school teacher, isn't she? She's, you know, she's lovely, but she's got her own secrets, and he has got that hold over her because he has the power over her of a secret. And I think that was, you know, I kept thinking, but she's stuck, you know, she's stuck because he knows this secret about her and it could get her into trouble, big time. And so you think, well, he's just got all the power and we have to read the book to find out. But yeah, he is just, and also like the things that they do, you sort of think, you know, not, you know, that people would do that people would go to the extremes they do, you know, kidnap and, you know, sort of, you know, hurt, harm and all those things. It's just bizarre.
Yeah, it was important to me in the book that not too many of the victims were going to the police, because I thought, you know, if you've got 4 victims of stalking and the police are involved in all 4 cases, that makes for a very complex story. But also it was important that, you know, people were in situations like Lucy and Alex for a different reason. Neither of them could go to the police for very different reasons. They didn't want the police involved. And as you said, that puts you in an impossible situation because you're really on your own then, because Lucy's secret, she can't admit that to anyone. Literally, nobody in her life, and the only person that knows it is Marcus.
Yeah.
And he's got that power over her. And she does everything that, you know, people advise if you're being stalked that badly, which is to move jobs and move house, change your number, shut down your social media. But he keeps finding her. And I wanted the reader to think, what would I do? You know, what would I do? Would I, because I don't share the secret immediately. It's a little bit into the book where I share it. And then I want the reader to think, what would I do? You know, would I admit the secret? Would I go back to
really hard one? It's a real. I think for her that dilemma, because Alex obviously has her reasons why she doesn't want to go to the police, but that's different reasons. But yeah, I just felt that he did have that. He was so manipulative and knew exactly how to use it to her. To the point that, you know, there's some points where she almost goes back with him, doesn't she, just for a quiet life, just because, you know, it's, well, to save other people, you know, I will go back with him, or I'll go back with you just because. And so really interesting. And Bridget and River. So River I found interesting because I assume that there are as many female stalkers as there are male stalkers. I don't know what the statistics are, but I sort of wondered whether you hear more about women being stalked by men rather than men being stalked by women. I didn't know what the...
I think I don't have any statistics on it, but in terms of criminality in general, many more men are criminals than women. Like, you know, there's many more male prisons compared to women's prisons. And when women are in prison, it's typically for things that are drug related or fraud related or shoplifting or, you know, or getting pulled into a violent world by a man and doing things. That's not to say that female stalkers don't exist, because they absolutely do. And I know one author who took a female stalker to court. I won't talk of his story because it's not mine to share, but you know, she made his life an absolute misery. And you know, there's a documentary at the moment on Netflix called something like Love, Marry, Kill, Love, Marry, Stalk, something. It's about a man who gets into a relationship with a woman and then he finds himself being stalked. And it's really quite terrifying what this woman does. I think, you know, an unhinged person, regardless of gender, is very dangerous. But yeah, I think in general there are fewer female stalkers, but I wanted to represent that in the book, which is why I have a male victim, River, and he was previously with Vanessa, and then when he got with Meg, it seems to provoke Vanessa's ire, and she starts to stalk not only River but also Meg, and she'll, like, you know, follow Meg to a hairdresser and sit in the seat next to her and try and tell her awful things about River. But I wanted there to be a question mark in the reader's head about River and about how trustworthy he is. So you have Vanessa's version of events and you have River's version of events, and it's down to the reader really to try and make a judgment, you know, whose version of events do you believe and which way is your sympathy swaying. I like to, you know, in the same way with Lucy, where I give the reader a moral dilemma, you know, what would you do in this situation? I like to not make my characters too cut and dried. You know, just this side of likable and relatable, but with a little bit of a shadow.
Is he? Because I did. There's definitely points where I was sort of reading and thinking. I think there's points in the book where I not doubted, because I don't think there's some, but there's questions, isn't there? I think that's a fair way to say that you will ask yourself questions as you're reading the book about some of the, you know, where it's going, how it's going to end, because actually I thought the tension that builds, and you said that ticking clock, I think that really does ramp up, doesn't it, as you as you get through, and also as you get to know the characters. I think the more you get to know the characters and their stalkers, the more involved you get within that. And was that difficult to write? What were the challenges of writing from multiple perspectives? Did you write each character so as a solo, or did you write them like chapter as they are in the book, where you have one?
Yeah, alternating. Yeah, no, I have to write sequentially.
Yeah.
I did an event with Erin Kelly last week, and she said that she kind of writes loads of different scenes and then puts them all in an order. To me, that's my worst nightmare.
That makes me feel twitchy, I think.
Yeah, my brain doesn't work like that. I mean, I am a plotter. So, you know, I've got a whiteboard here, and I will plot quite heavily the first quarter of the story, and that often remains as is. And then I'll probably go off-piste as I get to know the characters a bit better, and I have better ideas than the ones that I've put on the board. But I have to literally start at the beginning.
Yeah.
So, you know, I wrote Natalie's chapter, then I wrote the WhatsApp chat, then I wrote Alexandra's point of view, and then I switched and I wrote Bridget's. And I don't have like a prescriptive, it must be Alex, Bridget, River, Lucy in that order. I will chop and change, and sometimes I'll feel like, oh, there's been maybe a few too many Alex and Lucy chapters, and we haven't heard from Bridget or River for a bit. I haven't mentioned Bridget. Bridget is my older character. She's in her 50s, and she is being stalked by an ex-colleague, which gives another different scenario. And a quite a different person as well. She's a florist, and yeah, it's more of a feeling, really. I sort of, as I work through it, I'm like, where did I last leave River? What was he doing? I'm going to come back to that now. So there are moments of pause when I'm writing, where I'm thinking about the balance in the storylines, and it's really important to me when I write a book with multiple points of view, that the reader isn't skipping through some characters whose storylines are a bit weaker because they really want to get back to the other one. And that is a big challenge, thinking, how can I make this character's scenario as gripping but different? Because when you've got 4 people who are all being stalked, you know, there are certain similarities in their experiences. But by giving them quite different characters and giving them different people in their lives and different sort of obsessions and focuses, then you can find that way to make the difference. But I didn't want it to be too repetitive. I didn't want it to constantly be characters always, you know, looking out the window or, you know, getting a message and it's the same for every character. So I had to vary that up. And that was probably the hardest challenge, as well as also being in the head of 4 fearful people for 7 months or however, you know. There was a part of me that was just like, oh, can I just write a character who's just having a nice time?
Having a nice exactly. It must be quite stressful, you know, because I found it, and obviously you've experienced it as well, so I found it really unnerving, like that sort of thought that this could happen to anybody, and it's not anybody's fault. It's not, you know, it's not what anybody's done. It's just, you know, it's just the luck of the draw, isn't it? That you end up with somebody, or not even you end up with somebody, because some people don't even know they're stalkers. So it's just, and I found that really sort of unnerving. So writing it must have felt quite claustrophobic at times.
Yeah, it did. And so much so that when I was thinking about, right, what am I going to write afterwards? I was like, not something that tense. You know, I was just like that, you know, apart from maybe the fear, which was my 5th book. I think this is probably my tensest book. Or I think maybe the fear is slightly darker because it's about grooming teenagers, a teacher who grooms a teenager and takes her abroad. So that's pretty dark. But yeah, for my next one, I was like, right, I'm going to write more of a mystery. to this one, and no one's lives are going to be in danger, at least not at the beginning. So.
Not at the beginning. Oh, that's interesting. We'll come back to that in a minute. Because it's not going to have like unicorns or anything in it, or
no, it won't be like that fluffy lovely. No.
I fact sort of that I've sort of got those the countdown of the days, and as the book progresses, you count down from day 10 down to 1, and obviously things become more dire as it goes on. Did you always know how the book would end? We're not going to talk about how the book ends, but did you always know how it would end?
No, not exactly. So in terms of, there's a couple of mysteries in the book, and the mysteries are who sent the wreath, with the sort of warning.
Yeah.
Who is Alexandra's stalker? Is there another one? I can't remember. Those are the two main ones. And in terms of those, I did have a solution in mind, and I was following that path for it being that person, that reason, that solution. And as I got towards the end, I just thought, no, I can be cleverer than that.
Yeah.
And I came up with a sort of sleight of hand that I was quite pleased with, because a few people have said to me, I was really close to guessing, and I was like, yeah, but you were supposed to. That close to guessing, you were supposed to do that.
But I was close to guessing too.
But no one has guessed the actual ending. But I can't really say more than that. But so that's made me very pleased indeed, because I did the same with The Guilty Couple, my last book.
Yeah.
Where as I got to the end, I was like, okay, so this is what happens, but to put a little twist on that, somebody else is the story's going to be more than it appears, and my editor actually guessed one of the bad guys in The Guilty Couple, because it's got another mystery in The Guilty Couple, which is who is the mysterious texter. Somebody is texting Dominic, who is my main character's ex-husband, who framed her. It's almost a bit like I kind of borrowed it from Line of Duty, the mysterious texter.
That's not a bad place to borrow it from.
Exactly. That's such a good device. I'm going to have a mysterious texter, because it's always good to have a mystery, as well as, the main one is, will they survive, or who will die in 10 days' time? That's the main one. But I like to have these other little mysteries running alongside in my books. And in The Guilty Couple, my editor actually guessed one of them. So I had to work really hard to make my red herring stronger and take the heat off this suspect a little. But when I delivered Every Move You Make, she did not guess. So I was just like, yes.
You were like, yes.
Exactly. I got you this time, Helen. So yeah, that was very enjoyable.
So I've got lots of people watching and commenting, and I've got sorry, I can't always see everybody's name, so my apologies if I don't say your name, but we've got Laura and Mills, and I've got somebody saying that they're having a fangirl moment, but I can't see who you are. But so you've got super fans on here, Callie. So Mills is saying, have you recovered from launch week yet? It looked very busy. It did look very busy. You looked like you were having quite a full-on time last week and the week before.
Yeah, no, I tell you what, it was busy, but it was brilliant. I went on tour with Lisa Jewell for 3 days in the northwest of England, and every morning we would go on a bookshop tour. We had this lovely driver named Bradley, who was driving our car, and he would literally drive us. I mean, we didn't know where we were most of the time. So we'd start off in Liverpool. Liverpool was our base. And then
I saw you were in Liverpool. My daughter lives in Liverpool. And so I saw Liverpool Waterstones, which I love.
Oh, it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. Waterstones. But he'd put us in the car, and me and Lisa would be in the back, and we'd be chatting a lot, swapping stories and whatnot. And then Bradley would pull up the car and he was like, okay, you just need to go through that alleyway and turn left. And we'd go, where are we? What city are we in? And you go, okay, you're in Crewe, or you're in Wrexham, or you're in wherever it was. And then we just go from bookshop to bookshop, meeting these lovely booksellers, signing copies of our books that they had. And then we get to go back to the hotel for about an hour and a half, hour and 3/4, get showered, get changed, get back in Bradley's car, and then we'd drive to Chorley, and we did an event in Chorley, and then we did an event in the Wirral and the D-side, and then Claire Douglas joined us for our last one. And we had phenomenal audiences. I mean, Lisa Jewell knows how to pull in a crowd. Hundreds of people, hundreds and hundreds of people.
Wow.
Yeah, 200 we had in the Wirral in the audience.
Is that Lingham's bookshop?
Yes.
Is it Lingham?
Yes.
Yeah. They get huge audiences.
They are amazing. So honestly, it was the best tour of my life. The numbers were just great. And then last week I did a bit of Wales and sort of, I want to say Herefordshire Shropshire with Erin Kelly, and we had a lovely event at Booker in Crickhowell, and then we had a slightly bigger event. It was Bookish in Crickhowell and Booker in my head's gone.
Abergavenny.
Bridgnorth.
Oh, Bridgnorth.
Bridgnorth. Yeah. But no bookshop signings.
To a bigger venue, was that one you had to
move
to a bigger venue? Yeah, I saw that one. Yeah.
We sold out originally in Bridgnorth, and so they moved us into the library. And
that was great.
And so it's been absolutely amazing. I've never known a launch like it, and huge thank you if there's anybody watching who came along, because all of those books that I signed helped me get to number 8 on the Sunday Times chart last week. That
was exciting.
And this week again. So just brilliant. So much, but bloody knackering. When I came back, I was taking first defence like no one's business, because obviously it's a lot of train journeys. Yeah. And then I managed to survive for 2 weeks, and then last weekend I got home and developed a massive cough. But it's worth it, absolutely worth it.
No, I think it looked amazing, and I think I was thinking 4 years ago we were in lockdown, and I think it's made people really want to go out and sort of, if they're able to, sort of online events are great, and obviously we love them, but it's also great to be able to get out and sort of support bookshops and get out and meet people. People love meeting people. I think crime writers as well, that you seem to get such a great audience and have such a great following. So yes,
they're lovely, and I know that that a lot of people at our event made friends with people sitting next to them.
Oh really? That's nice.
Yeah, they come and get books signed, and I'd say, "Oh, did you two come together?" And they're like, "Oh no, we were just sitting next to each other and we got chatting." And I just thought that was so nice.
Yeah,
and
nice.
Also, we did try to make the audience laugh in the events. So we had Luca Veste asking us questions for the first 2 last week. What day am I on? Week before, and then we had Jenny Blackhurst, who were and they're all excellent chairs. And we were like, let's keep this light and funny. And there's nothing quite like being on a stage and saying something and like a couple of hundred people laughing.
So that's amazing.
Not all these events aren't necessarily sort of dark and brooding and whatever. They're just like a hangout. Like some people wrote on Instagram afterwards, it was like hanging out with a funny group of mates. And I thought, oh, that's nice. That's a nice compliment.
Yeah, well, I think generally book people have got a lot in common, because we all love reading, and we generally have lots of authors that we love, and it's nice to be able to go and sort of find your tribe, isn't it, really? So I think we're sort of like going to a football match, but with an author. It's just a bit more tribal. You just have to pick. And I think also as well, I love the way that they'll mix up the authors together, so that you like you said, you were with Lisa, then you were with Erin, so you can, there might be that's sort of different. You can sort of pick different people, or depending on where you are. So yeah, that sounds really good. Somebody saying they love your guilty couple book.
Hey, so. Thank you. Yeah, no, when it was me, Lisa and Claire Douglas on the last event of the first week, people travelled from far and wide because they were like, you're our 3 favourite or whatever. People travelled for hours. And one person had even travelled from Florida to see Lisa because Lisa had never done an event in Florida, and so they'd flown over. And then when we were having dinner before the event, like at the sports club near where the event was held, somebody was sitting next to us, and she went, "I'm really sorry to interrupt, but I know who you 3 are." And we were like, "Okay, yeah." And she was like, "Yeah, I've travelled from Bristol, up to Chorley to see us. Left the husband and the kids behind. And hello, Marie, if you happen to be watching this." But I was really wowed that people will travel that far.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I think I think this is. I was trying to work out before we came on, and is this book 10 or book 11? I was counting them.
It is crime book 10. Overall,
you did others, didn't you? Yeah.
Overall book 14. So because there's 2 young adult thrillers, and I started writing rom-coms, so I've got 2 rom-coms as well.
So is there more pressure now? Do you find it? I know that because I follow it on Twitter and we've chatted before, but I know that you have, points where, like everybody does, where it's, really difficult, and you've got to get those edits done and all that sort of thing. But are you sort of at a place now after writing 14 books where you're more, I guess, not content, but you're happier with your sort of what you're going to do, or is it still as stressful?
Well, it's more stressful. I don't know if like authors who write police procedurals feel this way, but with psychological thrillers, there's only so many storylines that you can really follow, that you can really explore without getting too woo-woo or too over the top. So you've got, like, I wrote a massive list for my blog about all of the different tropes, and there are some that I haven't done. Like, I haven't done the twins trope, but I've done missing child, missing sister, toxic friendships, domestic abuse, stalking, revenge, a stranger comes to town. Basically there's this whole list of tropes that I came up with, and most of them that I've done, and if I haven't done them, it's because I'm not particularly interested in them. Some of them I've done more than once, like missing child, missing sister, but you can always put like a different spin on it. But for me, I kind of have like a checklist when I come up with an idea. The idea has to, so the main character has to have a goal. There has to be high stakes. So, if they don't go after the goal, then something really awful will happen. They have to, you get a death threat, that's the ultimate one, which is in every move you make. And they have to have a lot to lose. If you don't track the stalkers, then, then you'll die, sort of thing. And then I like the character to change over the course of the novel, so they're slightly different at the end than they were at the beginning. And ideally, I like to have a ticking clock because it makes it more tense. And so when I get an idea, I will say to myself, okay, does it tick all of these? And it's actually, and is it original? Is it original to me? Is it also original to the crime industry as a whole? And if I know the twist, which I don't always know, if I know the twist, is it clever enough? Have I done it before? Has somebody else done it before? Has somebody else done it before and been really successful with it? Because if they've been really successful with it, then I can't go there because you can't live up to that book.
Wow.
So you've got all of these things, and then on top of all of that, is it a book I actually want to spend a year of my life working on, which is possibly the most important one, because I can't write a book if my heart's not in it, if there's
No.
not something about it that really compels me to tell that story. You know, and I've had a few blips along the way. Like after I wrote Her Last Holiday over lockdown, which was really tough. My brain was on go slow, and not just because I hadn't started my HRT at that point. I really struggled to come up with an idea and make it work, and I wasted 3 months ploughing away at an idea about some survivalists and a woman that gets kind of trapped with some survivalists, and I couldn't make it work no matter what I tried, and in the end I had to just give up. And by then I was really behind schedule, so that's why I had a little bit of a break in 2023 where I just had a paperback come out of The Guilty Couple. And the hardback came out in 2022 because I was just a bit like, oh, I'm putting so much pressure on myself to come up with this genius idea. You know, and also, you know, I want to break America. I've not had a book break America, so now that's a new pressure. Like, will this idea also break America? Will it appeal to American audience? And you can drive yourself insane. And so many authors say to me, Callie, just stop thinking and just write the book you want to write.
It does sound like you put quite a lot of pressure on yourself.
I do, but I haven't got the kind of brain to just go, oh, I'll just write whatever I feel like it. You know, I do feel a duty towards my readers that they expect a certain kind of book from me and a certain quality of book. And I don't want to disappoint anyone, you know, because if people have been with me for 10 books, that's a loyalty that you often don't get. I mean, particularly with so many books being like 99p deals and stuff, it does feel like a lot of readers just flit for, you know, whatever the next one is. So to get a loyal reader who'll stick by you and buy every book is really important to me. So, but yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, I was nervous about writing the book that I'm writing now, which is a little bit more of a mystery and not quite as dark. But hopefully my loyal readers will be like, well, it still sounds like Callie. It still feels like Callie. There's still loads of mysteries in it and intrigue, and I'll be guessing. But and then I think I've got the idea for the one after it as well, but I haven't told anyone that apart from my partner. I'm always too scared. I'm not even going to tell my agent until I finish this book because I want it just to tick in the back of my head. But I really want to write the next book. It's a book that that I kind of suggested something similar a few books back in my career, and my agent said to me, "You're not established yet." She said, "Wait until you've written 10 books. And then you can get away with it." Exactly. I've done the time. And now I can write a book that's a little bit different. But no, it doesn't get easier at all. Every book has its own issues and characters and plot twists that you need to set up. Really, they're like puzzles. Every book is a puzzle, and no puzzle is the same. But I love some puzzles. So
I was going to say, I think that's why people love your books, because you obviously put so much effort and energy into making them, so that, you know, there's things to look for, there's mysteries to sort of find out, and it's not a, you know, I mean, you read them fast because you want to know what happens. You don't read them fast because they're, you know, an easy read, because there's so much to absorb. But it must be exhausting. I'm sort of interested in the sort of America thing. What do you think makes an American? What makes an American crime book then? Because I can't believe that yours doesn't. Because
this is the 24 million carat question or whatever it is. I don't know. I mean, I was talking to Lisa Jewell. I think there's definitely an issue with British authors in America. I mean, they've got so many of their homegrown authors who write in a voice that they're familiar with, that they're comfortable with, conventions that fit with their way of life. And very, very few UK authors break through in America. Within my genre, within psychological thrillers, I can only think of Lisa Jewell, Lucy Foley, Ruth Ware. Sarah Pinborough did for one book for Behind Her Eyes, but I don't think that has continued. There's another one. There's a fourth one. Oh, Alice Feeney.
Oh yeah.
So those four: Ruth, Lisa, Lucy, and Alice.
Go girls.
Yeah, I know. Go girls. I'm sure there's some boys as well, but those are the ones
Just go for the girls.
that consistently get New York Times bestsellers with their books. And I talked to Lisa about this the other week in the back of the car, and I was like, "What do you think it is that the four of you share?" And she didn't know. I mean, 3 of them got Reese's book club, and that definitely helps launch you in America if you get that. Right. And Reese likes the book with a female protagonist. But that's about as far as I can get. I've written loads of female protagonists. I do think you need a publisher in the States that pays good money for you. I mean, in the same way in this country, to get a decent marketing budget, to get a good publicity plan, you need your publisher to heavily invest. And they will heavily invest in the books they've paid the most for. And when I previously had 3 books published in the States, they were very small advances. So I kind of knew at the time that they weren't going to be massive because they have no reason to make them massive. But if you pay a lot for a book, the publisher will throw everything at it to try and make it a success to earn that money back. So basically, I just have to write a book that gets me a massive American advance.
Or we just need Reese to be watching and to come on, Reese, pick it up and read it. You'll love
it. Exactly. But I think having conversations with my agent, she thinks that Americans don't like British books that are too down to earth, too working class, too middle class. They like books that are upper class, which isn't true of Ruth or Lisa, but I think a lot of my books do have some working class characters in them, and maybe a little bit more gritty than shiny. I don't know. It's hard to know.
It isn't it? Yeah, it's difficult. Well, obviously, we'll have to watch this space on that one. Coming back to Every Move You Make, I really enjoyed the Dartmoor setting. I'm not going to say too much more about that, but I was intrigued why you'd picked Chagford, because I live probably about 20 miles away from Chagford. And I'm like, why has she picked Chagford?
I get this all the time. When I was on tour, a lady said to me, "Why did you choose Malpass for whatever book it was?" And I went, "Okay, the chances are what I did is I opened Google Maps
and you thought it's quite
I look on Google Maps for an area, depending what the scene is, but in the scene in Every Move You Make, and also some previous books that I've written, I need people to go into the countryside, away from a built-up population, in a house maybe where nobody will hear you scream. But also logistically, it couldn't be too far from London, you know, to make it. So I couldn't put them in Scotland because no spoilers, but they had to be relatively close to London in terms of driving time. But that's literally what I do. And then I will go on Rightmove and find a house. So there's actually the house in that scene. I found a listing for it, and I could see the garden and the space. And then I looked it up on Google Maps to see where it was. And I downloaded photos of the house so that when I wrote those scenes, I
could picture it in my head what I thought it looked like, and I was like, I wonder whether I was thinking, I wonder if you've been to Chagford on holiday.
No, I did loads of research into Chagford, and I was just like, people say it's got lots of arty shops, and it's
I was going to say it used to have. I don't know if it still does, but it used to have a little bookshop, and they used to have a Chag Word book festival. And a music festival called Chagstock.
So if you ever go there again, say that my book mentions it.
I will. I'll say get it in the shop. Exactly. For everybody in Chagford, it's because when I used to work for libraries, we used to have Chagford Library, so there was a little library there on the moor. Also Princetown Library, which is next to the prison. Dartmoor Prison. So So yeah, so there you go. A little bit of Devon knowledge for you.
Yeah, lovely.
Laura's saying they all hate John Mars in the US. Do what he does and have a chapter with one naughty word in. She's the Americans in the group she's in are obsessed with him.
I love John, and John has cultivated a really big. I'm guessing, Laura, that you're in the psychological thrillers Facebook group. I can't remember what your full name is. But I know that John has loads of fans in there. He's a very funny man, and I think funny helps. He's also a very good writer, and I know exactly the chapter she means. I probably can't say it because it's a swear word, but it's literally a chapter with just a swear word in it.
Like, oh, really?
Swear words. And it's become this massive thing.
Is it Olivia Colman's favourite swear word by any chance?
Does it begin with F?
No, it's worse than that.
Okay, yeah, it begins with F. But it's become such a big deal amongst this other Facebook group that has like hundreds of thousands of followers that people are making merchandise on Etsy with chapter 39. I think it's like chapter 39, and they say,
it's that one I come back when I come
39 off. You or something. Yeah, it's a massive. Someone's had a tattoo of it.
Really?
Chapter 39 and then the word on their body, and that's quite devotional, really. Someone has had a tattoo of one of my book covers, but I did have a say in it because my friend Scott said, I want you to dedicate a book to me. And because we have quite a sort of jokey relationship, I said, because he's very heavily tattooed, I said, if you get a tattoo of one of my book covers, I'll dedicate a book to you. And he only bloody did it. He's got a tattoo of the cover of The Accident on the back of his calf, and now he has a book dedicated to him. So, you got to pay a price.
You do.
For dedication.
Oh, that is commitment. That is commitment.
He's a madman.
He has it forever. Laura's saying yes, it is that Facebook group. She knows which one it is.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at the time, and we're nearly at the end. And so you said what you're working on at the moment. So you're working on a mystery at the moment. So will that sort of come out sort of this time next year-ish, or have you not got a date yet?
I hope so. Amazon is showing it as coming out in January, which I hope doesn't happen because everybody's skint in January. Don't bring a hot back out in January. I like end of March, April for my hardbacks. So hopefully it'll be then. But yeah, it's a mystery. It's about I'm only halfway through, but this premise probably won't change unless I rewrite the whole thing. It's about a woman who moves to a new town with her daughter, having just split up with the daughter's father, and the daughter was previously bullied at her old school. So when the main character's sister says, move to my town, it's got a lovely primary school here, they up and move. But she finds it to be very cliquey. The school runs really cliquey. There's a group of school mums who all stick together, and she's quite excluded. And her daughter makes best friends with this young girl. And so as a result of that, she finds herself hanging around with the young girl's father, who is a widower. And she gets drunk one night. They accidentally end up sleeping together, start to have a little bit of a tentative relationship. And then she finds out from one of the school mums that his first wife died falling off a stepladder when she was supposedly decorating the landing of their house. And his second wife vanished, never to be seen again.
Oh,
so yes, so that's the mystery in that one. When she tries to find out if it's just school mum gossip or is there something in it, and where is this woman?
Well, that does sound really good. That sounds really exciting.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad you like the sound of it.
No, I do. I really do. I think that sounds great. I do like that. I think you've got those sort of fans that sort of your go-to readers. Everybody has a go. Do you have a go-to reader? Do you have a go-to author? If you've got somebody that you will buy, regardless of what it is, you'll just pick it up.
Yeah, although I'm lucky enough to get proofs for free normally.
Yeah, me too.
But yeah, Liz Nugent. Liz Nugent
Oh,
is
yes.
she
Sally,
can Strange Sally Diamond
Strange Sally
is
Diamond,
her
yeah.
most recent. She can do no wrong. Like, to me, she's the perfect mix between literary and commercial, where she writes beautifully and her characters are so rich and three-dimensional.
Mm,
But she still has a cracking plot and cracking
yeah.
mystery and darkness. And I just think she's phenomenal. You know, if I could be another writer, I'd want to be Liz Nugent. And
Yeah,
yeah,
I love
she can do
Strange
it
Sally
all.
Diamond. I listened to it on Audible, and I was, to begin with, I was like, oh, I don't know what is going on. But actually, as you go through it, it's so good. It's so good, and yeah, and so clever, and
Yeah.
and just like you say, so visual and real, and yeah, amazing. Yeah, no,
I mean,
that's
a book that starts with somebody putting their dead dad out with the bins. I
yeah,
mean, how's that for a hook at the beginning? That's just
yeah.
like, what? Yeah.
And it's just so, she's just so naive and innocent, isn't she? And
Yeah.
just and yeah, actually, yeah, if you haven't read it, it's a really good book. Definitely recommend that one. If you
Most of
haven't read
Liz's characters are not likable, but
no.
Sally is very likable.
She
She is. You
is,
can't
and
help but feel for her.
but you do sort of think, what is going on in the beginning, because you don't know why she's like the way she
Yeah.
is. It's very, she's comes over as very, as it says, strange Sally Diamond.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
So just before we go, is there anything that you've read recently that you would recommend? Anything sort of that's come out that you've enjoyed? Anything you picked up on your tour last week?
Well, so picked up on my tour, I was given by Lisa Jewell a copy of Breaking the Dark, which is her Marvel novel, which is about character Jessica Jones. And so Lisa's worked with Marvel to write that book instead of a normal Lisa Jewell. And I've not read it yet, but I'm very excited because I know it was a hard write for Lisa. To take somebody else's character and yet make it a Lisa Jewell novel. So I'm keen to read that. I think that's out in, one sec. Doesn't say. That's not very good. I think it's July. I've got a feeling it's July.
Okay. Yeah.
But the book, the proof that has stayed with me, again, it's not out yet, but it's bloody brilliant, is Blood Like Mine by Stuart Neville. You'll probably get a lot of authors saying this because I get so many proofs and so many of the storylines are quite similar. I'm always waiting for something to blow my socks off, something a bit different.
Yeah.
And Blood Like Mine is set in America, and it's about a woman on the run with her daughter being pursued by the FBI, leaving a trail of bodies behind them. That sounds so far so straight crime. But the twist in this book, and I don't mean like a reveal that comes at the end, quite early on, and the word is never used, but the child is a vampire. But the word is never used. There's just references to blood and hunger. And I think it's important that you don't go into that book thinking that it's just a straight
vampire story
book.
Or crime book. Yeah.
Yeah. But what sets it apart is the emotion. Stuart is so good at writing emotion about trying to keep someone safe and love. But on the other hand, some really tense moments, and you really root for this mum and this child. And honestly, it blew me away. I think my Goodreads review started just wow, capital letters, wow. When a book blows me away like that, I just shout about it to everybody who'll ask. So I think that's out in August.
Fantastic.
Blood Like Mine, Stuart Neville.
Thank you. That's amazing. Thank you so much. It's been absolutely amazing speaking to you again. And I think just before we go, obviously I know in the back of the book there was a thing about stalking, and if anybody there's numbers, isn't there, that people can call?
Yeah, there's numbers, but I also want to mention, and I would like people to spread the word on this, there's something called Clare's Law. which is an act that was passed after a woman called Claire Wood was murdered by her partner that her father campaigned for, that you can contact the police if you have any concerns about a person, male, female, whatever, it doesn't matter what your gender is or what their gender is. If you think they are displaying coercive or controlling or violent behaviours, whether they're your partner or somebody else's, and you're worried, the police will look up if they have any previous convictions for violence or domestic abuse, and they can let you know. So then you can know yourself, or you can tell the person that they're involved with somebody who has gone to jail for this before, and to steer clear. And I think I literally only found out about that quite recently, and I really want to spread the word, because I think it's so important in this day and age, you know. And if I can stop anybody getting stalked or murdered, then then that's worth doing. Yeah,
no, that's I think that's something that's obviously as a parent and a father to try and to do something to stop that happening again to somebody else's child is just that's really moving.
It is.
But thank you for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. Every Move You Make is out now. If you want a gripping, page-turning, stressful at times read
with lots of mystery, but you can see if you can be cleverer than Karen and work out the ending.
Yeah, definitely. No, honestly, no, I didn't. Yeah, if you can, we want to know about it. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, everybody who's commented and joined in, everybody this evening, and and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you, Kelly. Thanks so much for joining us and telling us all about your book. Thank you.
Thanks everyone for watching. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.